to practice for your toString equals method by overriding them. Okay. So this is my Insta ID. Okay, I have shared it in the chat. So if you guys want to follow me, if you guys want to ask anything, so the profile is open for you guys. Okay. Okay, fine. So what did we complete yesterday? Let's start the session. What did we complete yesterday? So we had done this equals method to string method, right? Okay, so today we'll start a new topic. Okay, we'll start a new topic. It's a very easy topic, and it's a kind of it's a very easy topic. Okay. Next. Okay, let me create a package for this. Exception. Okay. So now I'll create a class. Here I'll create a main method. So is my screen visible for you guys? Is my screen visible for everyone? Okay. Okay, great. So here, basically, let me create a scanner class object. New scanner. So I'll say system dot in. Okay. So here I'll say scanner dot next int. So before this, okay, I'll store it inside a variable, and I'll ask my user to enter a number. So he'll be entering a number. So int result is equals to value divided by 2. So and I will print your result. So basically what I am doing here, basically what I'm trying to do here, I am asking my user to enter a number. So he is entering a number, and that is stored inside a variable called as value. It is stored inside a variable called as value. I'm dividing the value by 2 and I'm printing the result. Okay, basically I'm dividing the number by 2 and I'm printing the result. Okay, so here I'll say 10. When you divide 10 by 2, you will get 5. Yes or no? So when I divide 10 by 2, I will get 5. Next, what I'll do, I'll say 14, I'll get 7. Instead of 2, if you're dividing anything by 0, what is the mathematical answer, guys? What is the mathematical answer for a number if you're dividing it by 0? What happens? When you divide something by 0, what happens? So I'll say 10. So anything is divided by 0 is infinity. So can we represent infinity in terms of numbers? Can we represent infinity in terms of a physical representable number? Is it possible? So infinity, as it is not possible to be represented, so you are getting a exception. You are getting an exception. So here, if my number is 2 and if I am dividing the number, so I'll say 25, you're getting the expected result. Yes or no? We are getting the expected result here. But if you're dividing a number by 0, if you're dividing a number by 0, I think it was not saved. If you're dividing it by 0, so suddenly your execution gets stopped. Okay, your execution gets stopped. So a sudden stop in the execution of the program, we call it as exception. So basically, what is an exception? What is an exception? Sudden stop in the execution of the program is called as an exception. So understood the definition? Understood the definition? So okay, fine. So here, instead of giving the result, so we are thrown something called as arithmetic exception. Okay, we are getting something called as arithmetic exception. So basically, as I have defined it, so a sudden stop in the execution of a program is called as an exception. So there is a hierarchy for exception. Okay, so there is a hierarchy for exception. So yeah, we can go with this diagram. Is this diagram visible for everyone? Is the diagram visible for everyone? I think so. The diagram is visible. So basically, above all, we have object class. As yesterday itself we have learned, object class is the parent class of all the classes. Below this, we have something called as throwable class. For a throwable class, there are two subclasses. One is a error class and another is a exception part. So everything you see which is in green color, so that is runtime exception. So you get it in the execution process. But these, whatever, as they have mentioned here, everything which is there in red in color, so you get in compile time. Okay. So as I had shown you as this arithmetic exception, see here, until and unless that piece of code, see, it is also asking us to enter the number. While entering the number, we are not getting any exception. While storing the number also, we are not getting the exception. But when you are dividing the number, when the execution is happening here, at that part of time, you are getting this particular exception. So these kinds of exception, we call it as runtime exception. Why? Because whenever I'm running the program or whenever I'm executing the program, we are being thrown. So this exception is actually to say in a technical word, this exception is thrown to us. So this kind of exception, we call it as arithmetic exception. So basically, so did you guys understand what is a runtime exception? So whenever you are executing the program, during the execution process, if you are thrown a exception, that kind of exception, we call it as runtime exception. Any doubt in the definition of runtime exception? Any doubt? So basically what I'll do, sorry, I'll say one note. Let's have a note. I'll make this as exception. I have already shared the theoretical notes for this particular concept. Even then, I'll write the definition for this. Okay. So basically, exception is, just a minute. So here, what I will do, yeah, I got the picture. So basically, exception is a sudden stop in the execution of the program. I'll make it to 24. Change this to 24. And why want to enlarge this, buddy? Yeah, crow. So this is your exception hierarchy. Okay. So any doubts until now? Any doubt? Yeah. Any doubts in the definition? So this is your hierarchy. So basically, there are two types of exception. Basically, how many types of exception are there? There are two types of exception. First one is checked, CHECK, checked exception. Next is the runtime exception. Okay. There are two types of exception. One is a checked exception and one is a runtime exception. So what happens? What happens when a exception occurs? When a exception occurs. So when your exception is occurring, first and foremost, uh, let me connect my just a minute, 1 second. Yeah. Where is this cable? No. So I have connected myself with the board. Yeah. I'll write a diagram for this. Just a minute. I'm connecting my board. So first of all, always you do have the okay. First, I'll take the whole screen. I'll take the whole screen. So this will help me to write the diagram. First of all, always it checks is there a normal execution? Is there any normal execution? So, sorry, this is not your, this is not the dabba. So basically your normal execution starts. Basically, normal execution of the program starts. From here, there are two parts. First one, it will check it will basically check if do you get, if you get any abnormal situation. Is there any abnormal situation? So it checks for this. So no, sir. So let us go with the yes scenario. So if yes, yes, sir, there is a abnormal scenario. So if there is a abnormal scenario, what happens? First, so the normal execution is stopped. Your normal execution is stopped. So after your normal execution is stopped, it checks again. So basically, one object is created. Basically, throwable type object is created. Which type of object is created? Throwable type object is created. So after your throwable type of object is created, it checks, is there any exception handling? It checks if there are any exception handling. So if yes, sorry, let me say, if there is no exception handling, so what happens? Finally, your execution gets a abrupt stop. Execution gets a abrupt stop. So if we are going towards this cycle, if we are going towards this part, if I say no abnormal situation, if there is no abnormal situation, so what happens? There will be normal execution. There will be normal execution, and after this you get a after this you get a desired output. So to complete this diagram, so if your answer is yes, if your answer is yes, your normal execution will be presumed, or else there will be a stop. So this will be when there is no exception handling. So when you don't have exception handling at all, you will get this issue. So this will be your exception creation flow. Okay. So in this format, your execution will be stopped. So shall we see? Shall I explain the diagram once again? Shall I explain the diagram once again? Whatever I have written here. Okay. So see here. Whenever you click the execute button, it will check for your normal execution will start. If there is no abnormal situation. It will check for abnormal situation. Sir, there is no abnormal situation at all. So you will get a normal execution and desired output will be given to you. If there is a abnormal situation, your regular execution will be stopped. After this, what is happening? Throwable object is created. Which type of object is created? Throwable type of object gets created. After your object is created, there is one more check. Is there any exception handling? Is there any precaution given in the program so that execution will go in a desired output? If there is no exception handling procedure at all, so what happens? Your program suddenly stops. Your execution of the program suddenly stops. If there is a procedure, what happens? Normal execution will happen and you'll get your desired output. So this is the flow of your exception creation. Okay. So shall we see how to handle the exceptions? Shall we see how to handle the exception? Is there any doubt in this diagram for anyone? Is there any doubt in this flow of diagram? Anyone has any kind of questions for this diagram? Okay. So let us see how to handle the exception. So to handle this, first always you have to identify where the exception is happening. Okay. You have to identify where exactly your exception is happening. So basically, in this line, whenever I am trying to divide the number by 0, whenever I am trying to divide the number by 0, you are getting an exception here. So this particular purpose, so this particular line of code is causing you the exception. So to handle the exception, you have only one solution. That is to use a try catch block. To use what? To use a try catch block. So here I will say this as 0. Here in the try block, we will write exception causing code. In try block, what will you write? You will write a that exception causing code. So here I will say result divided by 0. Result is equals to value divided by 0. And so I will print the result. Here, as I have already executed the program, I know the kind of exception which is occurring here. So that is why I will write arithmetic exception. Okay, I will write a arithmetic exception here. You can do one thing. So this E is of arithmetic exception type reference. What is E here? E is a whatever the exception you mention here, that kind of reference. Okay. So I can say e dot print stack trace. Okay. You can say e dot print stack trace. Whenever you do that, for example, see here, print stack trace will provide you the details of exception. This is the cause for exception, that is I'm dividing by 0, that is why you are getting exception. Here you are getting the fully classified name of the exception, and this part is in which class and in which line of code you are getting the exception. This is one thing what you can do using a print stack trace, but this is not recommended. Okay, instead of that, you have to write which will help you not to do that error. So here, by what cause we are getting the exception? By dividing by 0, by dividing the number by 0. So for that purpose, I will say don't divide the number by 0. So now observe here. So now enter a number. Which line is executed? This particular line is executing. So this piece of code is getting executed. So here what happens? I will say 10. Whenever I am entering 10, so this 10 is entered into value. So this 10 is stored inside value. It is coming inside. So what do you have? You have a try block. You have a try block. So you have a try block. Inside this try block, what is happening? I am dividing the number by 0. Whenever you are dividing the number by 0, what is happening? Arithmetic exception is thrown. What type of exception is thrown, guys? I want everyone to respond, please. What type of exception is thrown? Arithmetic exception is thrown. So to catch, what type of exception I have created? Arithmetic exception. What was thrown? Arithmetic exception. What was caught? Arithmetic exception. So when both are of same type, can this be received by the catch block? Can this be received by a catch block? Yes. Your catch block will catch the exception. When the exception is thrown and the class is the same, when the thrown class is same, so the exception will be caught by this block. So inside this, whatever the solution you have given, that gets executed. That particular thing gets executed. And as I have given just a simple print statement, that print statement gets executed and your execution stops. But instead of this, I will say 5 here. And I will enter a number 25. So whenever I am printing, is my try block getting executed or is my catch block executing here? Which one is getting executed? Are we getting the result or are we getting the catch block execution? So as your try block is getting executed, so there is no exception created. There is no exception created. And whatever the desired result is there, that result is getting executed. Understood? Understood here? So if you want to handle the exception, you have to use try catch block. Understood? Understood how to handle the exception? And sir, can I have more than one catch block? Can I have more than one catch block? So you can have more than one catch block. So here basically I will say array index out of bounds exception. So I'll just say e dot print stack trace. So I'll change this to 0. I'll change this to 0. So now observe your code. Now observe your code. Okay. So shall we trace this program? Shall we trace this program, everyone? Shall we trace this code? It's a simple code. It's a simple. Oh, sorry. It is a simple code. Okay. So here, whenever I am receiving the number, I am receiving the number, and I am dividing by 0. Whenever I am dividing by 0, is my exception created or is it not created? Whenever I am dividing a number by 0, will I get exception or will I not get the exception whenever I try to divide by 0? So here we are getting arithmetic exception. So is my exception created or is my exception not created? Guys, please reply. So do I get exception or will the exception is skipped? Is the exception skipped? Whenever I try to divide a number by 0, create agutta agalo? Create aitada leda? Create avada illa? Whenever I try to divide a number by 0. So whenever I try to divide by 0, your exception is created. What type of exception is created? Arithmetic exception. Is this type of exception and this array index out of bounds exception are the same or different? Are they same or different? Are the same type of exception or different type of exceptions? So they are different type of exception. So your exception is not handled by the first catch block. Your exception is not handled by the first catch block. Okay. Again, after that, it will again check whether is there any other catch blocks. So now I have a catch block which is of arithmetic exception type. So what is the created exception type? Arithmetic exception. What is the type of exception which I have declared here? Arithmetic exception. When these both are matching, so this particular block handles your exception. So you can have only one try block. How many try blocks you can have? You can have only one single try block and multiple catch blocks. And multiple catch blocks and always child type of exception will be in the above. Child type of exception will be in the above. And later you will have the parent type of exception. Okay. Only the parent type of exception will be in the below. And this is compulsory. Okay. So always you can have try block. You can have catch blocks, multiple catch blocks. So after all this, if I want to print as a closing statement, as a closing code, you can have finally block. So anything if you want to do after the process things, so either your execution, so either you get exception or exception is not at all created, your finally block will compulsorily get executed. So for that as a marker, So here I'll say finally block. So observe here. So here, see, your exception is handled by the arithmetic exception and your finally block is executed. I'll change this to 4 and I'll divide the number and I'll enter 24. So then also your finally block executes. So finally block, what you will write, basically code closing statements. Code closing statements will be written in the finally block. Okay. So you can have try and catch block. You can have try and finally block, or you can have try, catch, and finally block. But you can never have only try block, only catch block, and only finally block. These are not at all possible. Okay. Always first it will be a try block. Next, one or more catch blocks. And last, you have finally block. So understood how to handle your exception? Understood how to handle the exception? Everyone? Any doubt in this explanation? Any kind of doubt? Anyone has any questions to ask? Do you did you guys understood how to handle the exception? Is there any question? Anyone? So you can use this link to download your Eclipse. Okay. And if you guys want to connect with me, array index out of bounds exception. I'll explain that in tomorrow's class. Array index out of bounds exception, I'll explain that in tomorrow's class. But basically, it is also one class of exception. Basically, it is also a kind of exception. See here, whenever exception hierarchy. See here, I think so you guys can see the screen. See here. You can see, I think you guys can see here. See, this is exception. Under exception, you have runtime exception. So this is one class, one kind of class, array index out of bounds exception. So that is one category of exception. Okay. Any doubt in today's class? How to handle the exception? That I have to